Hey, Mike Ernst here. Here's the thing about recording an Excel macro to format tables. It breaks the minute your table changes size. But watch this. Using AI, I can describe exactly what I need in plain English. AI generates the Visual Basic code, and now I have a macro that handles any table, any size. So if you can describe it clearly, AI can automate it. Here's the proof. Okay, so I've switched over to an AI engine here that's called Claude, Claude.ai. You can see I'm using Sonnet 4.5. One of the things that all the major engines can do is work with projects, and I will talk about projects at various points in the course. I've created a project called Excel and AI, and I've just given it a basic description. And then what I'm going to do here is just paste in a prompt. And the idea I want you to hang on to is if you can describe it, AI can probably build it for you. So the prompt I'm giving, I'm going to just paste it in here because it's fairly long. But it says, generate sample code for a VBA macro using my coding style guidelines. Talk about that at another time. But the code identifies a table that the current selected cell lies within. The number of columns or rows of the table may vary. The first row will always be a header row. The macro formats the header row using a bold font that is 1 point larger than the font used in the rest of the table. The header font color is white against a royal blue fill in the header row cells. Make sure all column text is visible using AutoFit if needed. The macro sorts the table in decreasing order by the values in the left column. At completion, there are no filters enabled on the table, and the cell in the first data row, leftmost column, is selected. Okay, so let's see what it gives me. It starts thinking. Okay. So here it says, here's a VBA macro following your coding style guidelines. And it created something I can just copy and paste into the workbook as a macro. Okay, and it's got all kinds of comments because comments are really important. And then it even gives me some explanation about how it did certain things and why. So I can just take it and copy it. And now let me switch over to Excel. With the workbook open, I go to the Developer tab and then click on the Visual Basic to bring up the Visual Basic editor so I can paste in the code that I've just created. So now let's switch over to the Visual Basic editor. And then in the Visual Basic editor, you can see I've pasted in the code that got generated for me. And I put the code in the personal workbook so that it's available anytime I'm working on a spreadsheet and I want to format any set of cells as a table with the headers and sorting as I described in the macro. Okay, so now that we have that, we're going to switch back to the Excel workbook, and then I'm going to just run the macro from the Visual Basic editor. So we click on a cell in this workbook, and then bring up our macros. And then we've got the macro there, and we just say run it, and it does that one. And we switch over to a different tab and we click over here and bring up our macros and run it. And we bring up the employee tables and we'll start with that one. Bring up our macros and run it. Bring up our macros and run it. And bring up our macros and run it. So we've got 5 different tables. These 3 all have the same number of rows, but different numbers of columns. The rightmost table is sorted by the ID. The middle table has got a date sort. The left table has got a name or alphabetical sort. The timesheet data is sorted, again, decreasing order on the employee ID. And the sales data is sorted decreasing by the sales order number. So all 5 different tables, different sizes, different number of rows, different numbers of columns, all of them sorted and organized with the same style with one macro. So let's recap what just happened. We spent 3 minutes total. 1 minute to generate the Visual Basic code, another to copy and paste it into Visual Basic Editor in Excel, and then 1 more minute to test it on 5 different tables, different layouts, different sizes. I probably made that look too easy, but the message I want you to leave with: if you can describe your task clearly, AI can probably automate it. And I didn't show it, but I did test the exact same prompt in ChatGPT with my style guidelines. It gave me another VBA sub that I pasted in and worked equally well. I have included a couple of free downloads below. The style guidelines I currently use and a primer I put together because I never really showed you how to activate the developer tab. So drop a comment. I'd love to hear a problem that you've been struggling with and would like to automate. So that's all for this video, but I'm Mike Ernst, and you should go automate something. See you soon.